Yeah. Thank you, RC. Very warm welcome. As I told you yesterday, that there are two compulsory courses of the DCE, which are DCE-1 and DCE-06. Whereas you can choose any three from 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm very sure you have done that already, so need not to be repeated again. But what I would like to emphasize is the DCE-06 is an important, and in a way you can say that the whole learning of this particular program will culminate in this particular course. So that is the project. There are two components, as I mentioned. First component is preparation of the proposal. That is a kind of synopsis which you prepare for submission so that your topic is approved, or if there is any observation of the program coordinator or the faculty, that is communicated to you in due course. What I have been emphasizing is that you must not delay it anymore, because if you are enrolled in, say for example, January 22 1923, that means it is already 7 months gone and you are left with only more 5 months, within which you have to prepare the proposal, get it approved from the faculty. That takes usually 8 to 10 weeks, but might be earlier also, as the case may be. And then you have to actually do the project. That means you have to write the project, and then you can complete it, get it typed in double space and so forth, and then submit it. So I think you can gauge the entailing list of activities. So I would say that you do not defer it anymore, and then immediately start working on the proposal, because working on the proposal itself will take you maybe a week or 10 days. I don't know whether you are ready right away. So maybe within a couple of days also you can do that, because it is not a very lengthy or detailed activity. It is something where you have to choose a topic and then make a small justification as to how and what have you thought of doing with this particular topic, and then how you will go about it. So it is my earnest request to all the learners who are with us at the moment, and also those who are not with us here at the moment, but may be joining later, or maybe getting the information from their colleagues or the fellow students, that please do not delay in preparation of the synopsis or the proposal. So proposal is nothing small, you know, note that says what you intend to do, how you intend to do, why you want to do this particular thing, and so on. So it is a justification rather, and then you have to also give the title of a particular genre that you choose. That, for example, if it is a novella, if it is feature, if it is short stories rather, I should be saying, or if it is writing poems or writing scripts for radio and television, or any other similar kind of proposal that may be like a book review, etc. So, only thing you have to do is you have to very consciously choose the topic. We will come to that point again, but we have already delineated with this in quite detail and exhaustively yesterday. So I hope that this message has gone well with you, and perhaps you are already on the job. Briefly coming to the choice, what you should choose for your project. Your project is 4 credits worth, and the university has decided that you must write at least 20,000 words, be that a novella, sorry, or be that a feature or articles, or that can be short stories in the form of short stories. But if a novella is there, I think there is a scope for 20,000 words in novella itself alone. If it is feature or the articles you have chosen, then you must write at least 8 to 10 features or 8 to 10 articles. And the features, we have been talking about writing feature for radio and television, but quite extensively we discussed the nature of features for the print media, that is for the newspapers, that is for journals, magazines, or periodicals. You must have been going through the articles which are published in the newspapers. So I would advise that if you have an inkling to prepare your project on articles, then you must read articles which are written by various very senior journalists, or sometimes by the authors as well. So you must go through maybe 8 to 10 or 15 articles. Maybe if you read 2-3 articles per day, so within 4 or 5 days you will have plenty of idea as to how the articles are written. Similarly, if you look at the features, features are not article. That is the prime thing. Articles are fully informational, review based, and also treating some concurrent subject. Features are basically based on one particular issue. There is plenty of scope for the hard facts, or rather, I should be saying the ground realities, or the facts, or the whatever. If it's a feature for television, there might be actual photographs, snaps. For example, if there is a feature on rising road accidents in India, so obviously there will be a very fatal accident which will be depicted as an opening page or an opening scene. But if it is for newspaper, if it is for say for a journal, then you have to pick up that particular incident, and then you can begin like 60,000 deaths in a year in the Indian roads. So that can be a good beginning. Then we came to the short stories. 8 to 10 short stories have to be chosen, because if a story is each story is about 2,000 words. That means there has to be at least 8 to 10 stories, so that they make together they make at least 20,000 words. Dear learners, there are there is a scope for taking the writing poetry also for the project work, and here also you have liberty to choose 12 to 15 poems. They might be, say, for example, 1,000 to 1,500 words, and altogether they can make a good 20,000 words. So that is the scope for choosing. But only thing you have to keep in mind that there can't be poetry, there can't be a poem which is only 4 lines, 6 lines, or 8 lines, or one stanza. It must be at least 14 lines each. So that is the criteria. And then writing scripts for radio and television. This was an issue which we discussed quite a lot yesterday, and I am sure you have got the rough idea as to how to write, why to write, what to write for radio, what to write for television. The problem with radio is that it has such a vast arena that there is no end of topics to be taken for writing for radio, or scripts writing for radio. One. Secondly, any broadcast that radio will have will definitely be having a script. That is the advantage. Whether it is play, or it is drama, or it is a discussion, parichurcha, or it is a special audience program. For example, it is for women's audience, for working women, for youth programs like a Yuvavani, or extension programs like health and agriculture. Since radio is a sound medium, everything has to be narrated and voiced. That means you will voice something only when you have a text. So the text has to be written. How it should be written, we discussed it quite a lot in our discussion when we were discussing the writing for media, where we talked about the radio and its scripts. The radio scripts uses a very simple language, very small sentences, and most often, if it is not too long if it's too long a figure to be given, let's say for example it is a budget or allocation of budget, and likewise state budgets, their approximated figure is given. And secondly, it is always written in a conversational manner. So that is the nature of language used for writing scripts for radio. Well, if we come to television, we all know it is an audio-visual medium where there is a scope for audio, there is a scope for visuals. So it is both sound and scene. Radio is a medium of drawing room, social media. It puts together the whole family, and then you can watch and see. It doesn't happen with radio like that. Radio is for one and all. On the contrary, television is a social medium. That means, yes, you can watch television when you are alone, no doubt, but you will be enjoying it more when you sit together with a family or with a group. So, how to write for television? There's a different technique. There's a different approach. In television, the more dominating role in terms of information or the message conveyed is played by the visuals. We know that visuals are very important. Visuals have great effect on the human eyes. And the visuals, like it is a common saying that one picture is worth 1,000 words. So that means there has to be very little script. Major role has to be played by the visuals. So any creative writer who is trying to become a script writer for radio or television must at the outset understand the nature of the very medium. Subsequently, the range of topics that is available, that has to be seen very carefully, and then one should decide about choosing the genre from a particular media, whether it is television or it is radio. Well, there can be choice even beyond that, and that can be from the literary reviews. I think if you remember, or if you were on that particular session with me, I had explained that book reviews are very important activity from the point of view of creative writing. The reason being the book reviews. But the problem with book reviews is that one cannot be biased, and one cannot be, unfamiliar with the topic on which the books have been written. Say, for example, if it is a story book, or if it is a collection of essays on various genres like Chayavad ki Alochana or romanticism or anything that has literary tinge in it, the reviewer has to be acquainted with the technique and devices of that particular genre, and only then one can write a good review. So I'm not in a position to advise you whether you should take this particular option or not, because that is entirely your own decision. And moreover, there has to be good books. Those are quality books and so forth. So you can choose the topic. This is what I wanted to discuss. In fact, this is only the important aspect of discussion about the project. Then I would like to inform you that once that you have chosen the topic, then you have to choose the title for the topic. That means if you choose the novella, then you have to give a title to your novella, which you will be going to write. And then you have to explain how you will proceed, because any literary creation has a form. Of course, the experimental creation in a particular genre, like experimental short story, experimental poetry, or so forth. There's little relaxation, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a strategy how to begin, how to develop it, how to go to the climax, and how to conclude it. This is very important. Uh, Another area of interest which you can take into your project work, that can be writing for children. Writing for children, you see, it can be journal writing, it can be knowledge based writing, it can be purely entertainment, it can be through short stories, it can be plain, small writing units, or it can be through poems. What one has to keep in mind, very importantly, because this is the flaw with the children's writing, most authors begin very emphatically. In a short while, they tend to waver from that particular concern, which is the core area for writing for children. They start to behave like adults because children don't like certain type of writing. They don't like serious writing. They don't appreciate a very complex writing. They will not enjoy the writing which has politics in it, which has twisted meaning, or so forth. And above all, not only that children might not like it, that is one issue, but it is very important from the legal point of view as well as the moral point of view, social point of view, or obligation to writers' point of view, that there shouldn't be any violence, there shouldn't be any bloodshed, there shouldn't be any harsh material which is presented to the children. So one has to totally, reject this type of material. I mean, not think of writing this type of material, whether it is straight writing, or it is writing short stories, or writing poems. I hope you have got enough idea about how to write, what to write, when to write. Now, once you have decided, the important thing is that if you tend to write novellas, as I mentioned, you have to give a title to it, and you have to explain it at least in about 15 to 20 lines for novella. But if you are interested in writing features or articles, if there are 8 to 10 features or articles, you have to give 8 to 10 titles, then maybe in 1 or 2 lines justification for the title. And similarly, for short stories also you have to give short title for each story that you propose. At the same time, you have to give title to the poem that you intend to write and you propose to write. So, what is important is that because you might ask a small question from and put this to me, why there is title? What has to do with the title? The problem with title is that if you don't present a title, then the program coordinator will not be able to decide whether the title is going to be an agreeable title, one, and whether the scope that is to be given under that title is justifiable, and whether you can write, because sometimes we are very ambitious. So, in that circumstances, in that kind of situation, we later on find it very difficult. So, from the pragmatically, if you have to see, if you, from the point of view of workability, you have to see, then it is not only requirement of the synopsis or the proposal, but perhaps more in it is in your interest, because once it is reviewed, then that means it is approved, that means it is a workable title, and you will have it in form of how to do it, that because you have already explained it, and then how to do it strategy has been approved as well. So with this I come to the conclusion that we discussed yesterday, I am sure you remember that I told you that the proposal has to be around 500 words. That means roughly loosely written 202 pages. So in which you will give the title to the project. That means writing poetry can be project, writing novella can be a title, writing feature article, anything. And then you have to come to the methodology. So the methodology is very important. So once you after title of the project, you have to give the objectives. Objectives will narrate. Methodology will come later. Objectives will narrate what do you want to do, why do you want to do, how you will do it, and etc. etc. So in objective itself, you have to give the title to each story, each article, each poem, and also there you have to make a brief statement about that story, about that selection of the whether it is poem or it is feature or it is article, whatever it is. And when we move little ahead, when we arrive at the methodology, then in the methodology you have to explain how will you organize or arrange your project, because we have been talking about the writing short stories. So in short stories, we know that there are experimental short stories, there are formula short stories, there are detective short stories, there are children's short story. Which genre you will take, that you have to explain. And because each genre within one main genre has a different approach, the treatment is different, the approach is different, the conclusion is different. So uh, you have to explain all that in methodology. That you have to write that I will write experimental short stories. That means you will not care for the plot, or you will be writing in a different way where there is no concrete beginning like the conventional short story, uh, like that. So it will be a kind of new kind of approach which you will take. Or if it is short story for children, that means there will be a lot of animation, lot of imagination, lot of natural characters, birds, and then not through the narratives, the things will be explained, and who will be the narrators? Those will not be human beings. I mean, they may not be men and women. There might not be even one, except maybe mom or dad, or uncle or aunt. But there can be any number of animals: cat, dog, you know, elephant, camel, and any number of animals, and there can be a host of birds, and they might be talking, to the child or the children. You see, there might be, there may be lion also coming, and is roaring, and suddenly bowing before the child. So, who knows what the child is thinking in his or her mind? Child's mind is unreadable, and they always think of impossible, unimaginable, and something which has a great challenge to deal with. So that kind of heightening experience must be brought into children's writing. That is what I mean to say, that you should put in the methodology. So methodology is very important, and methodology also consists the aspect of presentation. How you will present it, what will be the order, so that it has to be double typed on a foolscape paper or on a A4 size, whatever you choose, and then you have to write. You have to leave the adequate space on both sides of the sheet, so that double space and space on the both side margins, so that if the teacher, if the evaluator feels, I'm using the word teacher because that is what ultimately all of us are. We are evaluators, we are coordinators. That's a different role to play. So that means if your teacher thinks that there is need to make some comments, so there should be scope for that. So that is the methodology. I have already discussed with you what a novella is. What is the novella is also of various types. It has different themes. It has specific strategy to choose themes. It has specific strategy to develop it. I mean, how to approach that. And there can be formula novellas, there can be experimental novellas, there can be stream of consciousness. That means which deals with the human feelings. Those can be tragic or those can be mm, comedy. So there can be both happy end or the sad end. So that has to be written if it is a novella. If it is feature or articles, whole lot of discussion has already taken place. But you see, if you look at a certain easy topics, then there can be like already told you, good material, good topic can be like rising road accidents in India, or there can be environment day, or there can be change in the environment, or there can be uh, tapping the resources of Himalayas, or there can be uh, an article on the Western Ghats, the majestic flora and fauna of the Western Ghats, and like that. The only thing you have to do is that you have to approach the topic very carefully, have some basic information, and then along with it have some factual information dealing with this particular topic. If it is writing for women, write from their perspective. What women like, what are their concerns, their job, challenges in their jobs, their responsibility towards family, raising a family, then the children, then finance, like budget is creating a lot of problem for the kitchen. That can be very useful topic, like price rise or the hike in inflation in the prices, or the deficit budget or like that. So what are the pitfalls? What are the impact of this? Those are on the particular category. So men may not be that aware of how it is going to impact their kitchen, except that when they are asked to bring certain commodities and when they cost more, then they realize. Right from the moment it is announced, the women get worried and then they express anxiety, anguish over this price rise. So there are a lot of such topics which one can take and decide it whether it is for newspapers or for journal or magazine. So dear learners, I will conclude it here. Same is for short story, formula story, detective stories, and experimental stories. Writing for children we have already discussed. There's a whole range of topics that can be written for children. I would like to add here with regarding writing for children is that while it is purely for their entertainment, there has to be a strategy with. Of course, it is very implicit strategy that some piece of knowledge should be communicated to the children through the short story or through the poem itself. So we were talking previously, as to how it can be done. Maybe there are two characters which are talking to each other through their narratives. So give put certain statements or put some visuals where some animals are helping, like if there is a herd of elephants and a small baby elephant slips and falls into a small pond and is unable to come out of that, then you see all the elephants will be very anxious and in anxiety. Some of them will try to uh, pull the baby elephant from the pond, but if through their trunk. But if that fails, then one of them will jump into the pond because being adult, they will have plenty of power to resist the flow as well as the depth, and then they will simply drag the small baby elephant from it, and then others will be simultaneously picking up that baby elephant, and that's so that shows that will be a family scenario. So one can say, look how your parents care for you. So the child will get really a good message that it is very important to be integrated in the family. Child knows that only shelter is with parents, but then there has to be some case which is to be presented. Or maybe if there is a bird which is not very healthy, suddenly it has fallen from the branch of a tree, and then it falls on the ground. So you see a lot of other birds will come, they encircle and try to revive that. So that is a good concern that even the other animals like maybe hare will come or some other animal will come and try to revive that bird. So that means there is a human concern for the life. I mean, there is in each and every living being there is concern for life. So those kinds of messages can be built through the short story. So that is what the children's writing. Now, writing poetry we have already discussed. I left deliberately that if you do not choose any topic from this particular range, then there is scope for certain other genres to be brought into. I have told you that book reviews uh, can also be integrated, but not more than 20% of the total length of the project. That means you can write 6 short stories and maybe you can write or 8 short stories and 2-3 book reviews. So that will altogether make roughly about 20,000 words. So the condition is that book reviews should not exceed 20% of the total length of the project. So if the project is worth 20,000 words, that means it shouldn't exceed 5,000 words in terms of the book reviews. So if there are 2 book reviews or longer book review, which is not the case most often, then you have to take that into consideration. Similarly, you see there can be small memoir, some reports, uh, also on say for example if it is it's a national literary festival being held at certain venue, then a small review report can also be presented, and maybe report could also have 50% load, 50% component, and rest can be feature of the short story. So it can also be done like that. And you see, travelogue and biographies and book reviews or radio interviews. You see, the problem is if you want to bring in travelogues, then there is not allowed that you write only travelogues, or you write only biographies, or you write only book reviews, or you only write radio interviews. You can write, but that shouldn't exceed 20% of the total project length, which is 20,000 words. So I feel there is enough discussion on how to choose the topic and what should be the what are the considerations and other issues likewise. Yeah. So say for example, if you go for writing a short story, then the Advantage with it is that if you write 12 to 15 short stories, later on you can go if those are they actually if you look from the perspective point of view for the whole discussion and the strategy and the approach that has been developed by the program coordinators or the university that you should write 20,000 words. That is a very pragmatic approach, because if you write 12 to 15 short stories or 12 short stories or 13 short stories, and they all together make 20,000 or 21,000 words, then if that is approved, one thing, if that is approved and you score good marks on that, that means it is publishable. I am using the word for the first time, publishable. Actually, the basic idea behind the project formation and project work is to bring something out of you which is publishable. You see, so for just project sake, you can choose 5 short stories, 5 features, likewise, that is possible. But in that case, the collection will not be publishable. But one thing can be there, that 5 short stories can be a separate component later on. After you have completed the program, then you can get them published individually, or maybe you write few more short stories and then put together. They will be good and enough material for one collection of short stories. The case is slightly different with features and the articles. Articles there can be a book based on the articles, but on features, it is difficult to bring about a collection of features as an amateur writing. In books, in magazines, in journals, in other periodicals, you might have seen that there's a range of contents. There's a whole lot of content. Those are interviews, those are critical writings, there are investigative reports, and then maybe a couple of features, or maybe 1 or 2 features. So that means it is not easy to get a independent publication of the features. But if your features are such that they can be converted into articles later on, it's good writing. But articles, yes, of course, a collection of articles can be easily published. Similarly, if we come to the poetry, that means to the poem, writing poems, writing poetry. If there are 10 to 15 good poems, obviously that makes a good material size for a small poetry, a small collection of poems that can be published. What I am trying to put across here is message is that your material should be publishable. If it is not publishable, I am afraid there will be some observation on your proposal itself. The proposal itself will be a testimony that has to be prepared in such a way that it presents in actuality what you intend to do, how you will strategize your work, and how would you culminate it, and what are the end results or the achievements of this whole exercise. Keeping that aspect in view, the idea is that your material which you write as a creative writer, because you are a student of the DCE, you have studied for a whole of a year, and then whatever you write, that should be publishable. So I am using the word publishable today very strategically. I didn't use the word yesterday. Prior to that, reason being that first of all, we have to be acquainted as to what to write, how to write, and what should be the methodology. So You see, this is very important feature of your writing that it has to be, publishable work. So I don't know whether either of you were yesterday with in this session, because I have been telling quite repeatedly that please bring a small sample proposal so that we may discuss it. If you have chosen some topic or some area you would like to discuss it with me right away, or we can. Has anyone prepared a sample synopsis or sample proposal? Rather, I should use the word proposal. Okay, so if that has not been done, then you see, you know, we have to say, for example, if you choose, a feature, you know, and the title of the feature is the memories, you know. So in memory, what, how do you treat? Because you have to write at least 2 to 3 lines for each feature, for each article, for each short story, and for each poem. So, for example, if you are writing a short story, and the title is "The Mask," for example, So, what is the mask? Mask. How to write a statement about mask? You know? So mask is something that represent that obstruct the real representation of a person. You understand how to write the justification? So a mask is something that is not the real, that hinders, that blocks, that doesn't allow the real personality of a person to come forward. So if so it is a kind of deceptive tool uh, which doesn't allow the real appearance of a person as seen without mask. So mask is also something that is a double speak. Some people, we often use the word split personality. Some people have different actual personality is different, but they show present themselves differently. So that is also a mask. So we say no, तुमने एक चोगा ओढ़ रखा है, ये तुम्हारा अपना असली व्यक्तित्व नहीं है. We call sometimes that no, this is not your actual persona. So what is actual persona? That is the real identity, real personality. But if it is masked, that means it is represented differently through some device. If you practically wear a mask, okay. But if it is used metaphorically, that means it is used to hide the identity and give a false representation. It's like that. So if you are writing a short story, say for example The Mask, then you have to write like this. Story will write later that there was a girl, there was a boy, but they didn't want to come openly to the society, to the public. So they used to meet secretly and stuff like that. But in society, they would behave like they didn't know each other like that. So this kind of justification has to be given. So if it is a story about, say, the memories, so the memories can be good title for the short stories also. How would you go about the memories? You have to have a lot of nostalgia. So you see, Ritesh was working as a site engineer in a far remote corner of the Odisha state. He was very hardworking, and very soon he earned the respect and regards of the local population. So one day he was invited to the Gram Panchayat Pradhan's house for lunch, as there was some social event. There he met with certain other people, and while he was served the food, etc., it was being served by a group of pretty girls of the household. One girl with a star beauty, a very attractive way she served the food. Ritesh was very curious to know as to who she was. Very late he came to know that she was the daughter of the Pradhan, or like that. So that will be actual story, but what goes into making the memories is a recalling of the events where element of attraction, friendship is developed, and maybe if it is tragic, and then you have to put it that way, so you have to bring it to that in the end. So, but you have to write that, yeah, this is a story which has happy ending, and this that particular person had a friendship. It grew, they met, they had a very happy life, and so on. So you have, basically these are the nostalgia. These are the memories of the past. So they have to be presented like that. If you look at the feature can be on the issues. It can be on a place of historical importance. Feature can be written on the current problems, current issues, like highway traveling fee. There are more and more toll plazas. The road condition is not good, so you can say installing high-end toll plazas with no improvement on the roads. So, or you can say the condition of national highways in the northern India, like that. Or you can say ecological degradation. Or feature can also be like mm, Sri Lanka revives. Sri Lanka revives. So because there has been a lot of financial crisis in the country, there has been a lot of protests against the regime, but within very short period that has been brought under control, and today the country is trying to get back to the old pattern, to the state, and it is looking forward to revive its economy. So we can use the term Sri Lanka revives financially, or we can say places of tourist attraction. This can be a topic which is relating to any part of India, whether it is Himachal Pradesh, or it is Jammu and Kashmir, or it is Uttarakhand, or it is the Western Ghats, it is the Munnar area of Kerala, or it is Rath Jatra in Odisha, or it is northeast, or what not. So, places of attraction, that can be another feature. Or sometimes very serious features can be like this uh, emancipation of girl child. So there you can talk about the girls coming very sharply in the competition with the male in the society, and making a very strong presence in all walks of life. So all these can be good topics for the features. Another interesting topic for the feature can be the capitation fee. We know what is capitation fee, but recently there has been very important decision of the government, and it is going to do away with any kind of capitation fee. So that can be good material for writing a feature. So say for example, if you have to write justification for capitation fee in 2 lines, what will you write? No, we can say the future professionals of the country cannot be allowed to run under the screeching wheels of industrialists in the education like this. So the education cannot be bought, rather it should be provided. So that means if it is bought, that means there is a capitation fee. If it is provided, that means it is without capitation fee. So this point has to be made to the proposal so that it justifies that you primarily the explanatory note that is required within 2 to 3 lines is only to know your mind as to how you think about this particular topic. Because if that is not written, if that is not there, then it is not possible to really advise you that you will be able to write this particular theme, or you may not be able to write. So, in order to gauge, in order to give you confidence, this is required. Another interesting aspects of the feature is to write about the social phenomena. What are the social phenomena? These are the phenomena which inevitably happens. Like one such like phenomena is getting old or growing old. So growing old is a phenomena that is associated with all of us. No one can be, no one can escape. So it can be very interesting area to write. So what should we write in it? We can write uh, all beings, those are born, will one day meet their end. Life passes through various stages. There are families, there are relations, there are pressures. Coping all these, a person grows. When we were young, we thought to be adult. After that, we thought to be independent, employed. Then there was wish to have a family and children. All through the journey, one does not realize as someone is getting old, aging. But it is inevitable with each and every one of us. All of us have to grow old. We have to meet the challenges. But whether the family structure is such that can take care of our growing population or not. So this you can leave here like this, and that will be good beginning, that will be good explanatory note to your project. So all that has to be kept in mind. Another good theme for features can be like Mauritius revisited. Mauritius revisited, or we can say Darjeeling revisited. So this is something which describes the beauty of the place and the purpose with which one has visited that place. Sometimes it is shopping, sometimes it is food. There are festivals which have the exotic food. So you can write like attending a literary festival at Cuttack, Bhubaneswar. You can write mm, visiting the Western Ghats, or you can write a visit to tea gardens of Northeast or Assam. So that will be narratives, that will be a description of the place, and then it will be quite interesting to others, those who have not visited the site, the place so far, they will be tempted to go and visit it again. So what I'm putting across here is that there is a lot of scope for writing features. So, I will go through a small checklist as to how you should submit your proposal. Since no one is giving me feedback, if there is any point they would like to further elaborate, because I very specifically asked yesterday that please bring in a sample proposal so that we may discuss that sample, and then if there are certain additions to be made to that, or if it is all right, well, fine, but if it needs a little bit improvement, perhaps after discussion you will be in a position to do that yourself. But that hasn't happened, so I will go through a small set of checklists for submitting the proposal as well as the project report. So I have already mentioned that the DCE-06 is a compulsory course of the program. It has to be done, and you have to obtain a pass score in this particular course as well. So since you have decided to take the course, that means take the project work. So there are certain steps to be followed while submitting the proposal. So first of all, you decide what you will take from the available choices for preparing a proposal. So that means your proposal should be focused at one of the areas that we discussed, and it must deal with the relevant topic within one area. So that means, first of all, you have to draft your project proposal. What do we mean by drafting? That means give a title to the project, and then explain the objectives. So objectives, I have already informed you what do we mean by objectives. Objectives will explain within this particular title what you want to do. So title can be writing features, writing radio scripts, writing television scripts, or maybe you can say feature and articles writing. So there it can be a mix of feature and the articles. So likewise, anything you choose, you have to state. So first of all, draft your proposal according to the guidelines that have been discussed in the last 2 days. That means you write the title, you write the objectives, you write the methodology, and maybe tentative outcome of the projects. So that you have to read. Then secondly, what you have to write, you have to prepare the draft, write the draft, read it, make sure it is grammatically correct, because as a diploma in creative writing in English, you are expected to be writing in a language which is free from the blemishes. It is grammatically correct and precise, and conveys what you intend to do very categorically, very clearly. There shouldn't be any distortion in the meaning. So one has to use a very appropriate language. And then what you have to do, get it typed in the double space on A4 size paper. A4 size paper, get it typed in double space. I think you understand what I mean by double space. that is automatically commanded by the computer when you put it into the computer and word format it, then you can use the command double space. So there will be space between the lines, double space between the lines. And then you get it typed, then get it properly stitched together and write your data sheet. That is very important. That means data sheet will be the information, your name, your enrollment number, your study center, your contact number, name of the program, name of the course, and all this. So please attach this information in the front page as a complete information so that if your proposal has to be referred back to you, there is a correct answer, contact address with the university on which your project can be returned to. So this is the second point. So once it is properly drafted and it is properly sequenced, typed in a required manner, then you submit it. And you submit it through the speed post. I do not know if all of you are able to come personally, but that is not required. So you can send it through speed post and it will be addressed to the program coordinator, DCE-06, Office of the Director, School of Humanities, Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU, Maidangadi, 110067, New Delhi. So it can be sent to there, but simultaneously it is advised that a copy is also sent to the regional director. All of you are enrolled under certain region, so you also send a copy to the regional director. In case there is some miscommunication, then the regional director, regional center can also take care of your case, and if there is a missing in the post, in the mail service, then your proposal can be retrieved from the regional center. So please send one copy, main copy to the Director, School of Humanities, that is New Delhi, and send a copy of the proposal to your respective regional directors. That means if somebody is enrolled in Odisha, he might send it to Bhubaneswar, or he might send it to Koraput or some other regional center upon with which the learner is attached to. So it will go to that place, and then once it is submitted, uh, another care should be taken that while preparing multiple copies of the project proposal, do not forget to keep one copy with you. Some of our learners are in habit of keeping the soft copy with them, but if something happens to your data, sometimes it is not retrievable, sometimes it is the IT failures, sometimes something can happen and file gets deleted, then it is a great difficulty to retrieve or to find the proposal, prepare the proposal again. So it is advised that you keep one copy with you for any submission at any point of time. And then what you should do? Once you have submitted a proposal, maybe just in not very active way, but in a normal way, think that this topic will be approved. You continue working on that topic which you have proposed. But you see, there is no guarantee that it will be approved. But anticipating that you have done good work, continue working in that direction, in thinking that you are preparing for the terminal examination. You see, it is not put anywhere on record, but what I am putting it from myself, from my experience as a counselor, as a faculty, that just sitting idle and just blindly anticipating the approval, and obviously when it arrives, we are already missing maybe 8 to 10 weeks time. So that means we have simply put into vain our 2 to 3 months. So within these 2 to 3 months, you continue to prepare for your terminal examination. That is one. But at the same time, continue to vaguely working on the proposal that you have submitted. Because if you, in between you create a sample of your project, that means if you are writing poetry, so why don't you write poems? Because writing poems is a good creative work, and even if there is disapproval of your topic, go to extreme. Most often the project is approved with minor, at all if it is there, there are some minor corrections suggested, but most often it is approved. So if you have used that time to work on the proposal anticipating that it will be approved, you almost save, or you have saved 2 to 3 months. That means 8 to 10 weeks. But what I'm trying to say is that even if you don't, even if you have to change your proposal, writing poems will any point of your life will be useful. Maybe later on you can improve them slightly, and then that becomes your work of creativity. You see, you are not a simple student of a simple program. You are the student of a very important program, and this creativity is all time contribution. It is whether or not it is approved for a particular academic endeavor, it has a tremendous value. It has an eternal value. Maybe after 10 years, what you wrote 10 years back becomes very important contribution. And because creative work has been seen, has been viewed differently at different point of time and by different people. For example, your program coordinator or the evaluator might not be thinking the same way as you have thought, and thereby not agreed to approve your topics, approve the title for the poems. But the publisher will might have a different viewpoint on those writings, and he might like it, and he might feel that it will sell like a cake. So you see, there is no loss. Creative work is eternal, of eternal value. It is of eternal value. So that means it will always stay. So it will always stay. We have already read in that poetry written on the naturals is always going to stay, because nature is always going to stay. So your poetry will always going to stay. That means it will not be work, an effort wasted at any way, in any form. If you write short stories, well, your short stories, even if are not approved, if those are approved, then it is a big boon, because you have anticipated it, and now you can simply prepare a fair copy and submit it as a final project report or project work. But say 1% thinking that it is not approved, even then you are not at loss, because if you have written 10 short stories or 12 short stories, all those short stories in the period to come will be, perhaps at certain point of time, never knows who appreciates that, and would like to print them, publish them, because those are works of creativity. So works of creativity are always appreciated. Anyway, what I meant saying is that while waiting for 8 to 10 weeks for the result of your project proposal, do not sit idle. That's what I wanted to know. Keep working. It is something that is a work of creation. It is not whether it is approved or not. No matter it is not approved, it will still be a work of creativity. So finally, what you get? You get comments, different comments on your proposal. The very positive and anticipated comment is approved. So the program coordinator or the evaluator will write, it is the proposal is approved. So that means it is approved in total. There are no observations, there are no shortcomings pointed out. So you must blindly go ahead with the project work as it was proposed. Next, if it is not approved, what then? See, that's also a difficult decision to accept. Then it is written approved conditionally. Sometimes, approved conditionally. So, approved conditionally means it is subject to observations. If it is written on the body of the proposal, approved conditionally, then you have to refer to the detailed observations that might be on the different pages in the margin. So you have to refer to the margins, or you have to go to the comments that are made in the margins, and then find out as to why this is written. You see, sometimes there are certain sections which might not be appropriate. In your case, it is to be understood more explicitly that there might be certain titles of the poems, certain titles of the short stories, or maybe children's writing. So the titles are not appropriate. So it is written approved conditionally, subject to revision of titles of serial number 2, 6, 8, and 10. That would mean that you have to change the titles of the 2, 6, 8, and 10. So that is the conditional approval. So conditional approval is also sometimes subject to more clarification, more strategies to be adopted in the development of the theme. This is second type of communication that you receive from the university. Third kind of communication that is made by the university, that is very categorical. It can be like redo it or resubmit. Redo and resubmit. If the same title, same topic has to be resubmitted, then perhaps it will not be written like this. Then there will be, condition. There will be very specific observation that your title is not appropriate. Consider this. But if it is to be done all together afresh, anew, then there will be the redo it and the resubmit. Redo means you redo this particular project. Redoing, that means your old proposal is not accepted at all, and you have to do a new project altogether and submit it again. So this redo it and resubmit it is the statement which communicates that your proposal has not been approved at all, Because had it been approved and there was some need was found to be improving it, to uh, attach or add certain sections to it, or to bring about more clarity, then perhaps the statement would have been conditionally approved or partially approved. So if there is a communication from the director, redo it, resubmit it, then you should understand that it has not been accepted, it has been rejected. In that case, you have to prepare a fresh proposal and submit it to the director, School of Humanities for approval. So all these are, various steps and stages. Uh, we will also discuss when you do your, say for example, if it is approved, then what you should do? You should go ahead with the actual project work, that is to write. So once you have completed writing, and then after writing it has been grammatically corrected, checked, the, you see there is one good habit. You read it at least 2 to 3 times before you submit for the final, as a final submission to the university. It has been found that we often get infatuated with the words, phrases, and set of expressions. And within ourselves, we feel these are the best set of words, best set of expressions. These are the very good dialogues, perfect dialogues. We ourselves ascribe that kind of honor and dignity. But we fail to understand, or we fail to recognize that it has to be acceptable to others, not just for my own self, but for others also. Because the creative writings will ultimately land in the public domain. So if the readers are satisfied, if the readers feels that it is worthy to be circulated and worthy to be read, then it will find good readership. So for our students also, since their work is going to be publishable work, that is what university feels about achieving through the project work. That means it has to be properly edited, it has to be properly proofread, it has to be cross-checked for the grammatical errors, and then it has to be, one has to decide whether it is going to be submitted through hard copy or through the online submission mode, because that will be decided by the program coordinator and the university. If it is to be decided by it is to be decided that the project will be submitted in the online mode, then for online mode you will be directed likewise. You have to visit the students portal, and then you have to keep on scrolling, then you will find the appropriate link which will say upload your project work. Let me explain to you that all the project works of the university in the different courses are not structured to be submitted online. But if it is mentioned in your program guide that this can be submitted online, obviously you can submit it online. But you have to keep it in mind that you shouldn't upload your project directly from the database to the university website. You have to prepare a copy, proper copy of the project report, which is having the front page, which is having the approval letter as an enclosure, then which might be having your own disclosure that this work is done by me and has not been copied from any other source, as well as that such work has not been submitted to any university institution for award of degree, diploma, or higher education so far. So that kind of subject has to be attached with the project report, so it can be uploaded. But all these documents will go through uploading also in the similar manner as they have been with the printed formats. So you have got fair idea what to do. So it has to be submitted to whom once it has been prepared. If you want to submit it online, fine. Then just share the copy of your project report. Do not attach it to the Word file. Make a file, uh, probably PDF file, and then attach that PDF file after scanning it or whatever way you prepare the PDF file, and then send it to the Registrar Student Evaluation Division, that is SED, Indira Gandhi National Open University, Madangarhi, 10067, New Delhi. And then, what then? You see, so that is not the end of the story. That is the end of the project story. Here remains certain other obligations with you. If you submit it in the month of September or October, that means you still have to take the terminal examination. That means you still have to attempt your assignments. So there is no respite till you actually reach the end of your academic year. So once you have completed the project, which I have been emphasizing time and again, right from the last two sessions, that you do not delay the submission of your project proposal. If you submit the project proposal today, that means September and that means August and September are going to be months taken for its evaluation. Maybe in the month of September you get to know the result. That means you receive the communication back whether it is approved or not. And then if it is approved, then you are left with project work a very few months, very small amount of time with you. You see, so what is advisable that once you have submitted the project proposal, continue working in the direction as if it is to be completed. So if you continue working on your project even in anticipation, that is entirely in your interest. But as I mentioned to you a little while ago, that if you continue working on it even without getting your approval, that will only help you to prepare better for the terminal examination. Because your terminal examination are to be held after the gap of 12 months. So that means if you enroll in January session, you have to take your examinations in the month of December. So you have to prepare for that also, and in between you have to prepare the assignments also. So writing, working on the project report, project proposal, not working on the project proposal, but working on the area that you have chosen in the project proposal will only help you to know to prepare better for the December terminal examination. So I feel I have already discussed the project proposal quite extensively. We also discussed the project modalities of the project proposal. Then we discussed how it is to be prepared, drafted, to whom it is to be submitted, and likewise. So, if there are a few questions about the drafting the project proposal or any ambiguity in the discussion, we can discuss it, or otherwise we may proceed with our discussion on certain other issues. Would you like to point out any query? We have a couple of learners with us, and if they have any Sir, do we have to speed post it only or scan it, right? So yeah, what I would say that it can be submitted online also, but I think it will be advised that you get a print copy of it and submit it to the Director School of Humanities, Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU Madangadi 11007. So you send, but in the meanwhile, you also submit it online. So if it is already accepted online, then there will be a speedier disposal of it. Secondly, I would say that you put a query through your program coordinator, through your region center, that sir, can we submit the project proposal through online? So if it is allowed that way, you can submit it in the online mode. It can be sent in the scanned matter also. Yes, very true. If you prepare it on the computer, then it can be straight away submitted, or you can take a computer printout of it, or you can make a PDF copy of it, or if not that way, then you have a printout and scan it and send it. So, or even if it is not to be sent by the online mode, the hard copy can be submitted to both at the headquarter and the regional center. So that is, I would advise you, because right away there are a lot of options available to submit it, but you have to find out and be sure that your project proposal reaches. So please get a little bit more clarification as to online mode is available. So if it is available, then that is much easier, because you work on the computer itself, or maybe if it is typed and prepared by hand also, no problem. It can be scanned and submitted. And similar way, if it is handwritten, it can be sent by post. But ensure that you keep a copy of it with you, and also send a copy of it to the concerned regional center. So maybe you ask this question to your program coordinator. That will be advisable. Sir, can we send the two proposals or one? This is quite interesting. Yeah, yeah. This is quite. You have to send only one proposal. You cannot send two proposals, because, my dear friend, what happens is that uh, a database is created at the headquarter, at the School of Studies. That means in the School of Humanities, there will be a database particularly dealing with the project of a particular session. So your name will figure there, and if it is submitted, whatever model, if it is submitted online or if it is submitted hard copy, no matter, it will be entered against your name. So when it is evaluated, the comment will also be entered in the record. So if it is approved, there will be entry, it is approved, or if it is to be modified, then there will be, partially approved, that will be there. And if it is to be redone, there will be comment like it has to be redone. So you cannot submit two proposals, one will be rejected automatically when the database is cross-checked. So you can submit it only if you are asked to resubmit it, or if it is subject to certain conditions. So those conditions can be met within the project itself. In that case, you don't have to resubmit it. You see, say for example, somebody is given the comment that modify the title of this poem number 9 or 10. In that case, you might not be required to uh, send a revised proposal probably, but you can simply modify the name, and then accordingly prepare a short story or a poem under that particular title. But if it is to be redone, if it is to be resubmitted, that will be mentioned categorically, and then accordingly you have to do it. Yeah. Any other question? You can even use your microphone. You can unmute yourself and then interact if there is anything else to be interacted. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is true. Actually, you see, counseling for certain. Yeah, yeah. You send a proposal to your RC only, respective regional center only, to which you are attached. Let me clarify this issue. Counseling is being held in a centralized manner. So that means student of DCE program from all over the country, as well as those who are overseas, all these students are simultaneously catered to by this broadcast. So that is only for conducting the counseling sessions. But as regard to the various other student support services, you are attached to your respective regional center. You can approach your regional center, submit the copy of your synopsis to your respective regional center. You get what I am saying? Respective regional centers. That means if you are attached to Jaipur regional center, send it to the Jaipur regional center. If you are attached to Bhopal, you send it to Bhopal. If you are attached to RC Delhi 1, send it to RC Delhi 1. In that case, do not send it to RC Chandigarh, because RC Chandigarh is only organizing the central counseling. So, okay, you got it clear. So, dear friends, any other question, any other query? Because we have little, maybe 5 to 10 minutes more before we would like to wind it up. Uh, Uh, so, with the final comment that your project report has to be submitted to Registrar SCD, you see, do not forget to either if you send it by post, keep a proper record of it and write the address very clearly, because sometimes with a slight margin it goes to different address. Again, I will come to a small addition to the information that we discussed. Uh, Still, but a major component that has remained, we didn't discuss it much in during the counseling sessions for various courses. That is the assignments. You know, the assignments have also to be attempted. I do not know if you people have attempted the assignments for the term and examination. You know that assignment is is mandatory component. There are three components in our program. One is assignment, another term examination, another is project report. So there has to be assignments attempt, and these assignments have to be submitted. I do not know whether you have completed your assignments, already submitted, or yet to submit. Can someone give me feedback? What is the status of your assignments? Because I okay, so yeah, so if these are to be uploaded, that means they are to be prepared also, right? So if you have already prepared them, then that is very fine. But if you have not prepared them, then we still have a session tomorrow. And if there are any difficulties about the assignments, the attempting the assignments, or any ambiguity about the assignments, as to how to do the assignments, or you are not able to locate an answer to a particular question of your assignments that have been given to you, then perhaps we can discuss all these aspects tomorrow. So, friends, I would advise that if your assignments are yet not prepared, one that know properly that whether it is these are to be uploaded online, because for OL mode students, these are definitely to be uploaded online. But if some of you are not online online learners, if are offline learners, even then you have to submit the assignments to your study center or to your result center. So please submit all the assignments together now, probably in one lot at the earliest possible, so that these are evaluated and their grades are uploaded in your grade cards. Because even if you attempt the terminal examinations and if not attempting the assignments, and if the assignments are not evaluated in time because those are not submitted in time, your result will remain not successful. So it is very important that you complete this formality. You attempt the assignments as per, and as far as the attempting the assignment is concerned, I hope you know these are the formative assessment. That means these are to be evaluated and feedback has to be communicated to you. And the strategy that is adopted in formulation of the assignments is a very important strategy that is to give you a test that you have read the entire contents of a particular unit or a particular course, and that you are ready to undertake the terminal examinations. So the strategy to formulate the questions is such that not even single question in your assignment will have its answer at one particular place. So many learners are confused. They say, no, sir, this doesn't have an answer, this doesn't have complete answer, it has sub part in it, and the sub part is not locatable, it is not traceable. So that is a problem, because normally, conventionally, our approach is in the text material that whatever information is related to a particular topic, that is available at one point itself. That is the approach of the text. But when you come to the SLM or self-learning material, that is what IGNU supplies or IGNU provides, then this approach is different. Here, the issue is fractionally transacted at so many places, because wherever it has relevance, another facet, another aspect is added to it. We have been discussing, particularly if I remind you, like writing experimental short stories. Writing, if it is meant for experimental writing, then there is experimental writing for short stories, there is experimental writing for novellas, there is experimental writing for poems. There are experimental poems, then there are experimental writings in other genres also. The issue is that each genre, each format of writing has a different approach, even if it is experimental writing. For example, if it is poetry, then what is experimental aspect in the poetry? What is experimental poetry? I think if we remember, it is a poetry which overlooks the metrical order. It doesn't use the meter. It doesn't bother about the rhyme. It doesn't bother about the rhythm. It doesn't bother about the periodicity. It doesn't bother about the punctuation. So that is experimental in poetry. But it is not the same with the short story. If you look at experimental short story, it is very different. It is very different approach. In a short story, when you don't care for plot, you don't care for its beginning, You don't stick to climax the same way as the conventional short story does, and you don't care for its ending. So there, what is it? It is the writer's creative mind expressed. There, our concern is that a writer's creative mind expressed. Style is not expressed, form is not expressed, structure is not expressed. The only care is taken to express the poet's mind, writer's mind, author's mind. So people believe, why to barricade the author's mind? Sorry, there was a breakdown in the connectivity. So I am about to conclude now. What I was trying to say that uh, assignment strategy is such that you are required to go through your study material comprehensively, and because you will find a piece of information at different places and put together, they will make one reply. So, dear learners, with this, I would like to say goodbye to you for the day. If we don't have any other query or question coming in, I'm still available. If there is a question or query, we can discuss it for a while. But I would say that tomorrow we might discuss the assignments maybe briefly, and also we will try to revise the take a look on the project proposal, also how to write proper proposal. We will again revisit, and I would appreciate if some of you brings in mm, the draft proposals, because if there are few proposals which we can discuss in the live session, perhaps that will be good learning to others also. We can see what are the shortcomings, we can see what are the hallmarks, what are the very positive aspects, and so forth. So, with this, once again, I would say if there is any question coming, you are welcome. If it is not, then I would wind up the session and say goodbye to you, and till we meet tomorrow in our last session. Whatever queries, whatever issues you will have with regard to counseling sessions that we had for this pretty long, almost two-thirds of a month, we can discuss. We will have a very memorable session then. We can make it a question answer session, and also categorically focusing on the project work. Thank you. Have a very good day. Bye bye.